Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andy Tsao. I'm the managing director with Silicon Valley Bank. It is fantastic to be back here in Istanbul. We are very excited about what's happening here in Turkey. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I'd like to thank Barak and the organizers of Startup Istanbul for having me. How many people are familiar with Silicon Valley Bank? Show of hands, anybody? Okay, we've got a few hands up. For those of you who don't know Silicon Valley Bank, we are the leading commercial bank in the United States that's focused exclusively on the technology and innovation ecosystem. In the US, that translates into working with 1 out of every 2 venture-backed technology companies. We also work with more than 800 venture capital and private equity firms around the world. Our mission statement is to support entrepreneurs worldwide and help them succeed. And Silicon Valley Bank has been expanding internationally for the past nearly 15 years now. We have a bank in London, a joint venture bank in Shanghai. We have growing offices in Israel and India. That being said, we recognize that the innovation economy is globalizing that much more quickly. There are new technology hubs that are coming online in new markets. And my team, the Global Gateway, is charged with exploring these new markets, building relationships with leading venture capitalists and entrepreneurs, and helping to bridge them to our markets. The countries that we've chosen include Turkey, Brazil, Russia, and Australia. So you might ask, how did we select these 4 regions? Well, it kind of starts with the macro level, right? We've had a sort of period, maybe a decade or more, of really strong economic growth across the emerging markets. Some of it tied to the commodities boom, fueled by China's consumption to some degree. So, of course, here in Turkey, if you look at the past decade, minus maybe the last 1 or 2 years, you've grown at 5% GDP growth on average, which is pretty astounding, really. And what has that done? That's really affected wealth creation. In some cases, it's really caused the formation of a middle class. In some cases, again, led to rising consumerism, which really, again, in terms of the momentum in some of these markets, you could look at the demographics, which, again, these are large markets. Brazil with 200 million population, Russia about 150, Turkey with 80 million and growing. Generally very young populations and very favorable demographics around things like internet usage, social media usage, smartphone penetration. So all these factors have really made it very favorable to look at internet models, or business models, I should say, from the US or other parts of the world, and really adapt them to the local markets. And the innovation really happens around how you go about that, adapting to the local market. And international investors have certainly woken up to the opportunity of building large companies and generating outsized returns by investing in emerging markets. Firms like Accel, Sequoia, Kleiner Perkins, Tiger Global, to name a few, would be firms that have regularly invested in the emerging markets. Again, we're excited about and enthusiastic about what's developing here in Turkey. And again, with the theme being growth at this conference, there are 2 companies I'd like to point out here in Turkey that we've met that are really good examples of building some of these high-growth companies. One would be a company called Trendyol that many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with, and the other one being Yemek Sepeti. starting with Trendyol. Just yesterday afternoon, we were catching up with Jem and Evren over at Early Bird, and Evren was telling the story of how he and Safir, who actually is the founder of Peak Games, another terrific company, and Demet came together to really form Trendyol. They managed to raise venture capital from Kleiner Perkins and Tiger Global, and really have today built one of the largest e-commerce properties in Turkey, are now have grown to a scale where they're becoming a regional player as well. When you look at Turkey's neighbor to the north, you can look at Russia and a company called Kupi VIP, which in many respects is a similar model to what they're doing at Trendyol. Kupi was founded by a German national named Oscar Hartmann. He moved to Germany, I think it was in 2006, and was able to raise money from a host of international investors, including Bessemer, Accel, to name a few, Balderton Capital, that's right. And again, today has grown that business to one of the largest e-commerce businesses in Russia. Again, taking advantage of some of the favorable demographics and growth in these markets. So maybe turning then to other growth stories that we've seen in other markets, other good examples could include a company called Movili, which comes out of Brazil. And this was a company founded by 3 Endeavor entrepreneurs in Brazil who built initially the largest mobile content platform in Brazil. They raised money from Naspers, and then just recently raised $55 million from Innova Capital to build then the largest Latin American platform. And in 2011, they sent one of their co-founders, Eduardo Enrique, to Mountain View, California, to really go about learning how to globalize their business. And just last year, they launched a children's app, which is now today the most popular app for kids between 4 and 7, beating out even Disney. And they're using that app now to expand into Asia. Final growth story that also comes from Latin America, and another entrepreneur I met in Uruguay about 2 years ago, Martin Magoya, another Endeavor entrepreneur who started a business called Globant, a software and services company. They managed to raise money from Riverwood Capital, and just this past July, floated successfully on NASDAQ, becoming the second technology company out of Argentina to successfully IPO on NASDAQ. So again, hopefully these are some examples of large successful companies that have generated a lot of growth out of new and emerging markets. These are things that certainly excite us. And for the entrepreneurs in the room, I would encourage you to think big. In the Silicon Valley, it's often thought about not just building a big company, but really trying to change the world. And again, for those aspiring entrepreneurs here, I'd ask you to think big and maybe change the world. Thank you.